Hi, thank you for watching Digging to China. I'm Dong Shong. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. Despite frequent claims from various sectors of China's economy that it is stabilizing and still holds long-term growth potential while facing short-term setbacks, it is becoming increasingly apparent that China's unsuccessful attempts at industrial upgrading, high youth unemployment rate, and the depletion of its demographic dividend signals that the nation may remain trapped in the middle-income bracket. Achieving the status of a fully developed nation seems challenging, not only when compared globally, but also within the Asian context. China may struggle to catch up with countries like Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and Singapore, making it more likely to follow the path of countries like Malaysia and the Philippines, ending up in the group of nations facing economic challenges. When it comes to the expected changes in China's economic growth rate over the next 15 to 20 years, there appears to be a consensus among economic experts, both domestically and internationally. Professor Zhou Tianyong, Deputy Director of the International Strategic Research Institute at the Central Party School for the CCP, has previously mentioned that according to modern economic solo algorithm predictions, China's average annual economic growth rate for the next 15 years is projected to be approximately 2.15%. Numerous overseas think tank reports also echo similar findings. Some Western scholars have been suggested that China's GDP growth rate might be surpassed by the United States again after 20 years, with China experiencing an average growth rate of around 2% during this period. So, the question arises, how did China end up in this situation, and what led to the decline in economic growth? Understanding this is crucial to grasp why China has found itself among the underperforming nations in Asia. To evaluate a country's long-term economic trajectory, we primarily consider three facets of the supply side. One, is there an adequate population supply, often referred to as the remaining demographic dividend? Two, is there an increase or decrease in the supply of capital? Three, technology, which pertains to the potential for industrial upgrading. What is China's performance in these three aspects? Let's begin with the demographic dividend. Regrettably, China's population structure has deteriorated at a rate that exceeded everyone's expectations. The first turning point occurred in 2012 when the working age population began to decline. Notably, it was in the same year that Li Ka-shing, the Hong Kong tycoon, initiated his withdrawal from China upon recognizing this demographic shift. Fast forward 2022, a decade into Xi Jinping's leadership, China experienced another demographic turning point. China's fertility rate plummeted to 0.5 births per woman, resulting in the total population decline for the first time. It's astonishing how China transitioned from the initial decline in its working age population in 2012 to an overall population decrease in just 10 years, a pace that exceeded the predictions of economists and demographers alike. Considering the demographic dividend is no longer reliable, what about the second aspect of supply, capital supply? Doesn't the Chinese Communist Party still have substantial financial resources? After all, they can concentrate their efforts on significant endeavors, can't they? It's crucial to understand that we are discussing investments that need to consider profitability, unlike the blind pursuit of extensive infrastructure projects favored by the CCP. China's GDP figures alone don't provide the full picture. As long as they are willing to utilize debt for growth, GDP can be maintained at high levels. Constructing non-productive airports in every village might inflate GDP, but such ventures won't yield profitable returns. They will only increase government debt. If we exclude these types of investments, how many projects can the CCP undertake that genuinely generate profitable returns? Thirdly, let's delve into the aspect of technological supply. In theory, investing in technology and research should yield positive returns and play a constructive role. However, regrettably, industrial upgrading happens to be the weakest link for the Communist Party. This is not to imply that the CCP doesn't emphasize it. They have, in fact, been promoting it for numerous years and have made investments in research and innovation. However, the outcomes have ultimately fallen short of expectations. The primary factor behind this situation is the Communist Party's long-standing policy of controlling education and suppressing critical thinking, which has led to a lack of innovative abilities among the Chinese population. Even when individuals manage to make significant scientific breakthroughs, there is no assurance that their interests or those of related individuals and businesses will be protected. Instead, these achievements often end up being expropriated by the government. Moreover, the Communist Party frequently infiltrates companies by establishing party branches within them, or in some cases directly takes control with individuals from influential party families assuming top leadership positions. These actions have become routine, raising questions about whether a party that doesn't respect private property can rightfully be called a communist party. In the realms of scientific research in China, it's uncommon to encounter researchers who are genuinely committed to their work. Instead, there is a prevalent tendency for individuals to resort to deceitful practice in order to secure funding, greatly outnumbering those who are sincerely engaging in research. A recent case illustrating this phenomenon is the chip project scandal. The Communist Party has a track record of engaging in unethical tactics and often prefers shortcuts over dedicated research efforts. Their approach frequently involves appropriating the research achievements and the technologies of others rather than pursuing original research. Consequently, this has led to China facing technological restrictions imposed by Western nations. In the realm of IT, the CCP essentially keeps a watchful eye on the United States. Whenever cutting-edge technology emerges in Silicon Valley, the CCP promptly emulates, translates, and adapts it locally, bypassing the phase of research and the trial and error. This approach has, over time, established a pattern of dependence, whereby they are unwilling to forge their own path unless they follow the United States closely. It's truly remarkable. The CCP boasts of being the world's second largest economy, constantly measuring itself against the United States and vying for the top global position. Nevertheless, the CCP remains impatient, myopic, and eager for immediate gains. Despite Japan's economic history serving as a cautionary tale, the CCP continues to opt for a debt-driven economic route. This not only fails to facilitate industrial advancement, but also rapidly depletes China's demographic advantage. As the demographic dividend nears its end and industrial upgrading remains lacking, capital will ruthlessly depart from China. This leaves the entire Chinese population facing an extended period of debt repayment. Thus, it can be asserted that the Chinese Communist Party truly brings calamity to the nation and its people. A dictatorship like the CCP is currently and will continue to expedite the plundering of the nation's wealth. Chinese high-ranking officials are in a hurry to accumulate wealth and convert it to US dollars for exit strategies. The entire CCP regime resembles the gang of bandits pillaging China before escaping, ultimately leaving the Chinese populace with poor and underdeveloped nation. The current acceleration in corruption and wealth accumulation among CCP officials, as well as the deceptive practice of technical personnel in securing research funding and the companies involved in marketing listings to raise funds and exit, can all be attributed to a common factor. It ultimately revolves around ideas of acquiring wealth and fleeing. This fundamentally stems from a sense of disillusionment with the CCP system, a dearth of hope, and an inability to envision a prosperous future. It underscores a fundamental absence of security and trust in the system. I believe there are individuals within the CCP system who understand the unsustainability of the debt-driven economic path. For the past 30 years, Japan's economic community has been sending a clear message to the world, advising against repeating Japan's mistake. They emphasized the importance of not pursuing quick gains during the demographic dividend period and instead focusing on upgrading industries. This message has resonated globally, but the CCP appears reluctant to heed it. Many ordinary Chinese people hold a misconception that even if China cannot overcome the middle-income trap, the country's substantial foreign exchange reserves and annual earnings in US dollars will allow them to continue enjoying good times. However, this belief is undoubtedly an illusion. It can be asserted that while China's economic growth has undoubtedly impressed the world over the past 3 decades, the velocity at which China has descended from the zenith of the global economy has exceeded all prior expectations. Let's take the startling pace of demographic transformation as a reference point. Who could have foreseen that China's population would commence declining as early as 2022? China's initial demographic inflection occurred in 2012 when the workforce population commenced dwindling, a phenomenon most demographic experts had projected to happen in 2015. To put it differently, China reached its first demographic turning point 3 years ahead of schedule. In 2012, official Chinese media outlets such as Xinhua issued statements regarding the emergence of this demographic transition, stressing the necessity to address it and implement policies to sustain the demographic dividend. However, a decade later, China's population started to decline at a pace that still outstrips all anticipations, to the extent that even the United Nations had to revise its forecasts for global population dynamics due to China's unexpectedly rapid population reduction. Hence, it's essential not to solely focus on China's present status as the world's largest holder of foreign exchange reserves and its annual trade surplus. It's important to realize that in just a few years, this trade surplus might disappear, and its vanishing act will unquestionably coincide with the diminishing demographic dividend. Currently, China's labor force has an average age exceeding 40 years, and this figure is anticipated to continue rising in the foreseeable future. Once the demographic dividend fades away, numerous factories will naturally relocate from China to countries with younger and more cost-effective labor forces. If the factories relocate, where will they continue to earn US dollars? China differs from Russia as it lacks significant oil and food resources and heavily depends on imports for those essentials. While China's land mass is comparable to that of the United States, its arable land is less extensive and the soil quality isn't as fertile. Moreover, China's population is significantly larger, making food supply a major challenge. Without international trade, China would struggle to feed its vast population. In essence, if China's foreign trade were to collapse, it would face resource limitations. Even with its $3 trillion in foreign exchange reserves, considering external debt, it could only sustain its 1.4 billion people only for a few years. In summary, the rapid decline in China's economic growth can be attributed to its pursuit of quick gains during the population dividend period, particularly in the real estate sector, which has squeezed the room for growth in the real economy. Consequently, even though the population dividend has vanished, the possibility of industrial upgrading remains elusive, not due to a lack of intention but rather an incapacity to achieve it. These challenges can be traced back to systemic flaws within the Communist Party's governance. In retrospect, the past decade can be aptly described as 10 years of China's economic backslide, and China has undeniably found itself in the category of underperforming Asian economies. In theory, during Xi Jinping's first year in office, China's population structure began to show signs of change. If he had given it enough attention, he could have introduced policies to slow down this demographic shift. These policies might have included removing certain household registration restrictions and offering childbirth subsidies. Unfortunately, Xi Jinping did not take significant action in this regard. Consequently, China's population continued to decline at a pace that exceeded everyone's expectations, with a decrease occurring in just 10 years. Xi Jinping cannot escape responsibility for this decline because it took place during his 10-year tenure. Additionally, he frequently implements policies, initiates campaigns, and encourages extreme populism, leaving various industries vulnerable to unforeseen consequences. As an example, to shift the public attention away from domestic economic crisis and conflicts, the Chinese Communist Party instead targeted Japan for its nuclear wastewater disposal, inciting various forms of public discourse. The outcome was that Japan emerged relatively unscathed, while China's own seafood industry suffered significant repercussions. It remains perplexing to comprehend Xi Jinping's rationale behind such decisions, behind all his decisions. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly. Until then, be well.